What is going on, everyone? This is Miles with Windows Central Gaming, and welcome to the 51st episode of Xbox Chaturdays, the first episode of 2022. I'm stoked to be kicking off this year. Oops, my bad. I'm sorry, apologize. I had some other audio going, so you probably heard a little music kicking off there. I'm stoked to be, kicking off this year, shaking off the dust with my good pal and coworker over at Windows Central, Samuel Tolbert. How you doing on this fine Saturday, my man?
Well, you know what? I'm doing better now that I'm here with you. I'll put it like that. This is a good way. This is a good way to open 2022, right? We got to get off. Last couple of years have been rough. Let's get off on the right foot.
Exactly.
Let's lay the foundation properly, and this is the proper way to do it.
Let's hope 2022 is the year for us. Like you said, the last few years, we've gone through some trials, some tribulations. 2022 is our year, baby. Let's do it. Let's kick it off
manifesting.
Right. Manifesting. Sam, how was your break? You and I were both off for a little bit of time. We got to kind of kick back, relax. How was that glorious time off over the holidays?
It was good. It was good. I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, I wasn't burnt out, but I was definitely tired from all the work. Because I was actually talking about it with you before the show. We kind of hit the ground running in late September, and then we just didn't stop all year last year. It was wild. There was so much going on. Forza, Halo, just everything happening. So it was good to get some time to myself. I actually, through some dark sorcery, conjured up an RTX 3070 and got my PC. No, I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Without going to a scalper, no less. That's the wild part. Don't ask me how I did it because I'm still not sure. It was a friend who helped. It was a friend got the invite. But so I've been catching up on some PC gaming. Actually,
yeah, okay.
A lot of PC games I've missed out on, like Frostpunk's DLC. Fires 4, Iron Harvest, like been going through downloading all the PC Game Pass stuff, checking the Steam sales. That's basically what my break doing. So it was good. How about you?
It was also pretty good. I did get COVID, so outside of that, it was pretty good. Thankfully, my symptoms were pretty mild, so it wasn't that bad. But I got to kick back and catch up a little bit, take a little slice, a little pinch out of the backlog. So I played the Gunk. I played Record of Lodos War Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth, it's a title. My God, it's a title. Fantastic game though. Really enjoyed it. Played Serious Sam 4. Started up Death Stranding. I gotta just relax, completely disconnect from work, and just play a lot of video games, which was really refreshing. Really, really refreshing. So
that's good. That's good.
I'm feeling good, feeling refreshed at the start of this new year, and I'm excited to get into it. And as we've seen this week, Xbox has kind of started 2022 strong. So we have a ton of stuff to talk about, a ton of big picture conversations. So we're going to be talking about, Rainbow Six Extraction coming to Xbox Game Pass, the killer start to Xbox Game Pass in 2022. We're going to be talking about Final Fantasy potentially skipping Xbox for this entire generation. We're going to be talking about the uncertain fate of E3. We're going to be talking about Xbox and their lack of VR and so much more. But before we get into all of that, for the folks who don't know, Sam, where can people find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert, Tolbert, very easy. And when I'm not on Twitter, which is a fair amount of the time, to be fair, you can find everything I'm writing over on Windows Central and its sister sites. Just helping the team, shaking the dust off, getting the rust off, or getting the gears grinding again for 2022. It's gonna be good. Already working on some stuff I can't talk about, so that's nice.
Oh,
that's
you little tease, you. Yeah, so before we get into the main topics today, some quick housekeeping. For those of you that don't know, Xbox Chaturdays is now on all of your favorite podcast services. Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcast, all that good stuff. So if you can't watch the show live, you can listen to the audio versions as well. So if you are interested, go check those out, leave a review, all that good stuff. And let's dive straight into the first topic today, which is Xbox Game Pass in 2022. Previously, right at the end of the year, I did a video talking about, kind of what to expect from Xbox in 2022. And I talked about, with their light kind of first half of the year when it comes to first party releases, that we can expect some partnerships. They're going to leverage Xbox Game Pass and partnerships with bigger games where they can. And we got our first announcement of one of those big partnerships through Rainbow Six Extraction launching day one on Xbox Game Pass. So another part of this announcement was that Ubisoft Plus is coming to Xbox. Let me stress that is coming to Xbox, not Xbox Game Pass. There were some outlets reporting that Ubisoft Plus was coming to Game Pass, and a lot of people running with it on Twitter. But that is not the reality for now. For now, Ubisoft has confirmed that Ubisoft Plus will be coming to Xbox as a separate subscription service, and that Rainbow Six Extraction is going to be launching in Xbox Game Pass. So, Sam, does this do anything for you? Were you looking forward to Rainbow Six Extraction? And more importantly, do you think this really moves the needle for Xbox Game Pass in the month of January?
I've got two very different answers to that question. So I'll answer them in order. For me personally, no. This doesn't do anything for me. I'll be real, I'm not that interested in Rainbow Six Extraction. I reserve the right to change my mind if it turns out it really is good. I'll try it. I'll definitely be trying it now that it's on Game Pass and I don't have to spend 30 is it 30 or $40? Because I know they dropped the price. It's not $60.
It's 40. So there's two versions, a $40 version
Okay.
and a 60, with whatever premium
Gotcha.
cosmetics and stuff.
Right. So like, I'll definitely try it out now, but it's not a big game for me. However, moving the needle, yes, this is a great way to open the year. Also very strong with the rest of Game Pass in general because Outer Wilds has returned this month,
Yeah.
and then also for Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass subscribers who have EA Play, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. And if you haven't played that, I don't know what you're doing. Like seriously, like get on that. But no, it's a good way to open the year. It's squad focused, and we know that co-op based games, squad based games, PvE tends to do very well on Game Pass. We're seeing a lot of those types of games get added to the service over time. I remember a couple of years ago, Vermintide 2 got added. More recently, we've had Back for Blood, Aliens Fireteam, so it definitely makes sense. And also, I'll just be blunt here, I don't think Ubisoft is seeing a high amount of interest in this game ahead of launch. It doesn't seem like there's been a ton of chatter. They probably ran the numbers, talked to Xbox, and were like, hey, this is a great way to promote this game. This is a great way to get more enthusiasm around it. Win-win for both companies.
Yeah, I totally agree. Rainbow Six Extraction is one of those games that it's had a kind of troubled lead up to launch because it had to change its name because of the the global pandemic. It was called Rainbow Six Quarantine, and people are like, well, that's too relevant, that's too topical, I don't want to think about quarantine with this video game. And so like, oh, okay, well, we gotta shift away from that, we gotta rebrand, we gotta rename this thing. So yeah, there's been a lot of kind of weird things leading up to this launch, and a lot of people have been confused as to what the game is. Obviously, it's set in the Rainbow Six universe, but it's not a PvP focused game. It plays similarly to Siege, but it's more like a Left 4 Dead like. And we've seen a lot of Left 4 Dead likes come out recently with Aliens Fireteam Elite, Back for Blood, a lot of high profile Left 4 Dead like games. So a lot of people are like, do I need this right now? I just played a slate of some great games over the holidays that are in this genre. Do I need Rainbow Six Extraction? So I've been interested because I love co-op shooters. I don't know if anyone here has played GTFO on PC, but it is a kind of hardcore stealth-ish horror shooter. And that's kind of what this reminds me of. If you took the GTFO formula and made it a AAA game. So that premise to me was interesting, and I wanted to see what this game kind of was, because I love playing Siege. I love the gameplay of Siege. I love the gadgets of Siege. But dude, you get bodied now. Like, it's one of those games I don't play regularly, so every time I like try to boot it up, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get into Siege. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna jump online. I'm gonna do some work, get into a match, and get crushed. Absolutely devastated. I'm like, I can't play this. I just can't. It's not fun to get beat that bad. It's so fun. It's so unfun that I just stopped playing. So I am curious to be able to experience that gameplay in a setting that is more PvE oriented, where I can feel good about myself and not feel really bad about myself. So with this announcement, Sam, this kind of sets the tone for Xbox and Xbox Game Pass in 2022. As we move forward in the year, I want to talk to you about what other strategic partnerships you'd like to see from Xbox. We know a lot of kind of rough release windows, some release dates for other titles. Are there any other big third party games you want to see in Xbox Game Pass or that you think would significantly move the needle for Xbox Game Pass subscribers?
Mm. That's a tough question. We already know some, like you mentioned. There are a couple that we already know. Stalker 2,
Mm-hmm.
actually,
Yep.
coming up in April. That's a great get for Game Pass. I am definitely in on that game. It doesn't have a release date, but we do know that when it arrives, Plague Tale Requiem, very highly anticipated game on my end. I love the first one. That's going to hit Game Pass. So there's
Yep.
already a couple in there. In terms of games, so you're saying like games that aren't confirmed for Game Pass that I would like to see in there.
Exactly.
That
We
makes
yeah,
sense.
like you said, we have Crossfire X next month, and then we
Right.
have Stalker in April, and then like you
Right.
said, there are others that are confirmed, but we have no dates for them.
Okay. Okay. This I'm skeptical this hits 2022 just because of, well, look around over the last year and a half or what. But if it still hits this year, the Callisto Protocol. That
Oh
is one I
yes.
definitely have my eye on. Horror game, Striking Distance Studios, original creators of Dead Space, essentially making, well, essentially it's Dead Space with the serial number filed off, right? Like they're
Yeah,
going back
yeah.
to the they're
Uh-huh.
going back to the formula, and the setting is so interesting. This like space prison on one of the moons of Jupiter, iced over completely underwater. Love it. I love it. We don't know a lot. Get that in Game Pass, please, because it's a horror game. And let's just be honest here. If your horror game isn't named Resident Evil, it tends to not be the biggest game in terms of sellers. They tend to like AAA horror is very rare these days. And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited for this game. Getting that in Game Pass would be a very big move.
Yeah, and I think Resident Evil and its a huge success with the last several titles back to back sets this precedent that yeah, you can spend money on a big budget horror game and have it
Mhm.
perform well. As long as you give people what they want and make a good experience, people will buy it. Because there was this point in time where people, big publishers at least, felt like it wasn't worth investing in these horror games because they didn't perform the way that they wanted them to. They were like Dead Space 3, prime example. They spent a ton of money trying to make it this big AAA shooter, but they kind of lost sight of what horror fans wanted. And then they said, well, Dead Space 3 didn't sell well, so now we're not making any more of them. So they shifted the focus of what the game was and then blamed the poor performance on people not buying it, which is a manipulative thing a lot of publishers do, I feel like. But it is Callisto Protocol would be another exciting one. I'm really confused as to why they have confirmed it's in the PUBG universe and what that means for the game itself. But outside of that, I'm very excited.
I, I actually think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant because like this guy wants to make a horror game, but he needs a big budget. You know, he needs a publisher just go loose and let him make whatever. Say, oh yeah, it's set in the world. You know, that super now free to play game sold millions of copies before going free to play. Yeah, like it's totally in the PUBG universe. Dude's the executive level C. Oh, it's PUBG sold. We're giving you
So, ba
stacks,
ba
my man.
ba ba.
And then he's like, yeah. I don't know. He just you know what? As a joke, have like a frying pan weapon as a joke. That's
Yeah,
all you need to do.
boom, done. In
And
the
there you go.
PUBG
You're
universe,
covered.
you're good, and you get that
Exactly.
big old bag, a big old bag of
Exactly.
PUBG.
This is big brain energy, Miles. Big brain
Big brain.
strategy.
All right. Quick shout out to the 112 people hanging with us already. If you are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out, feed the algorithm, all that good stuff. If you're listening on audio services, like I mentioned, review the show, follow the show, all that good stuff. I'm gonna get to some messages from some amazing channel members here. First up, we have Arjit Chani, who says Chaturdays is back. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. Appreciate you tuning in. Yodani says, can someone give me C19 so I can catch up on the backlog? And Mr. Joanna Dark, a member for 15 months. Good God. Good God. Welcome, Miles, and hello, Sammy T. Do you think we will see multiple tiers of Ubisoft Plus that rolls into Xbox Game Pass? Bill has discussed different SKUs for Xbox Game Pass. All right, Sam, I'm curious to get your take on this. I have some thoughts. I have a grand scheme. that I
Okay.
imagine will be rolled out for Game Pass, but I'm curious to hear what you think about Ubisoft Plus and different tiers and whether or not one of those tiers might be rolled into Xbox Game Pass in some fashion.
All right. So my thoughts. This is a little tough because I hate to do this, but I got to be blunt. Right now, Ubisoft is not really very interesting as a publisher to me. A lot of their games are not appealing to me. A lot of their games are not, they're not what I'm into. That doesn't mean there aren't some things. I'm curious about Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, the Assassin's Creed Valhalla DLC. Look, I love Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I know a lot of people didn't, but I love that game. But a lot of their stuff just I'm not vibing with it right now. So for me, Ubisoft Plus doesn't have a huge amount of interest, and I think you also have to look at the cost. EA Play, which is rolled into Game Pass Ultimate, $5 a month, right? $5 or $6 a month.
Yeah, I think
Ubisoft,
4.99 it was is what it
yeah,
was.
okay. Ubisoft Plus is 15. So I have to imagine that Ubisoft is a little more skeptical about just, slamming it in there at that tier.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, I don't think it's impossible. I think they're dipping their toe in the water. I think that's part of not everything to do with it, but that's part of what this move with Rainbow Six Extraction is. I think they want to see because this is the first Ubisoft game to launch in the service. A couple of others have come months or years after release, but this is the first one going in there day one. I think they want to see what the metrics look like. I think they, especially because this is what a lot of their games look like right now. They're doing a lot of squad based stuff, they're doing a lot of multiplayer stuff. I think they want to get some feedback on how that'll work out. And then to your point about different tiers, maybe they could, what they would be willing to do, like a smaller tier for I don't know, $5 or $10 a month, where it's not day one, but you do eventually get like a vault of all of Ubisoft's older games. Kind of like what EA Play does now.
Yeah.
Those games don't go in there day one, but eventually you get access to all of EA's games. If they can look doing something like that, then yeah, I think something like reasonable to add to Game Pass Ultimate down the line.
Yeah, I think that you bring up an excellent point with Rainbow Six Extraction and them testing the waters for probably engagement with this title, because I think it's fair to say that they are not 100% confident in the selling power of Rainbow Six Extraction. I think this is an experiment for them, and we've seen a lot of great data that suggests if you put a multiplayer game specifically in Xbox Game Pass, that it's going to perform well, and chances are it's going to sell better, especially if you have crossplay involved. We have seen that with Outriders as a prime example. So I think you're totally right. I think they are testing the waters with this, and I think, like you mentioned, Ubisoft Plus is $15. I don't think there's a world where the current Ubisoft Plus, as it stands, is just going to get bundled into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with no increase in price, because that's the same price as Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. What I envision as more and more publishers venture into these subscription services, because I am fairly confident more and more will, as Xbox Game Pass continues to be successful and prove that it can be successful, we are going to see more companies experiment with that. And what I envision is that there's going to be basically like either different upgrade tiers for Xbox Game Pass as a service, or something akin to like Amazon channels, where you have your Xbox Game Pass subscription and then you can link other subscription services to that, potentially, at a discounted price. I would hope at a discounted price. So you can say, like, normally Ubisoft Plus is $15 a month, but if I have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, I can bundle that for $10 a month, or whatever the price they decide on is
Right,
there.
right.
That's how I envision it. I'm seeing a lot of people saying, it's coming, it's happening. There's, it's just going to get bundled into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and I think there will be some way that happens, but I don't think it's going to be you paying $14.99 a month and you get EA Play, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and Ubisoft Plus. I just don't see how that financially makes sense for Ubisoft with their service, because obviously they want monthly subscribers, and like you mentioned, EA Play is EA Play is $5 versus 15, so you can bundle that in with Game Pass Ultimate and kind of close enough. But 15, that's a huge jump, and I don't think that's just going to go into the service for free. As much as we want to say Xbox Game Pass is the best value in gaming, and I think it is right now, I don't think it's going to get exponentially better on that level for the exact same price. So I guess I'll pose this to you. Sam, when is Xbox Game Pass increasing its price?
A good question. That's a really darn good question. And I think that goes hand in hand with another question, which is Xbox ever raising the price of its games
Ah,
from 60 to
from
70?
yeah, we haven't
Uh,
gotten confirmation really that they have plans
no,
to do that.
but they haven't denied it either. They've just kind of avoided the question for the
Yes,
time being.
yes.
They've kind of danced around it. They've scootalooed. I think this is my big brain that those two are hand in hand. I think when they end up having to raise, because economics, capitalism, inflation, y'all, they are eventually going to raise the price on their games. I don't know when it'll happen. It could be 5 years, it could be a year, but they are going to raise the price eventually. Okay, it's going to happen. I think when that happens, that's when you say, okay, Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate, we got to increase it. I don't think it's happening soon.
No,
I don't think
I agree.
it's happening anytime soon. I do not think it's happening. I'll say this: I don't think it happens this year, and I don't think it happens in 2023. I
Okay.
think 2024 onwards, when a lot of these big games have started to arrive, by 2024, we think Avowed is going to be out. We assume maybe Hellblade 2 is out, maybe Perfect Dark is out. Maybe Fable, a little more skeptical on that one, but like maybe, a lot of these big games that they've been working on for years and years are going to be point. They're going to have more subscribers. Hopefully, we get a big update on that this year. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think at that point, yeah, early 2024 and onwards, price increase could happen, but it's not happening this year. I'd be very shocked if it happened next year.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think, they understand that as they invest more heavily into these games, and as, if we have another year like 2021 where Xbox Game Studios and Xbox Game Pass specifically has a huge percentage of the Game of the Year nominated titles, Xbox is going to, feel comfortable and confident increasing that price. And I agree. I think there are milestones that they want to hit. There are metrics that they want to hit. Their numbers are not what they want them to be right now when it comes to overall subscribers. And raising the price right now is not going to help the number of subscribers that you get. So I think you bring up an excellent point when you say that, after we have this year, like 2023, which a lot of people are speculating to be, the golden year, the mission statement for the future of Xbox Game Studios is supposed to be 2023, where we have all these huge games. Every single quarter, you're going to get one massive, humongous first-party AAA game. I think after that year, they can probably comfortably say, all right, this is what you can expect for us, and because of that, we're going to have to charge you $5 more a month or something like that. But yeah, I agree. I don't think it's happening soon, but I think it is absolutely happening. As we've seen with Netflix, as Netflix gets more comfortable and confident and continues to grow subscribers, they are increasing that price every year. It feels like. I don't know if Game Pass.
Netflix is getting bold.
Yeah,
Netflix is getting bold with those price increases. They're like, we got you on a clock.
They're getting like $3-4 away from me being like, I don't know, Netflix. I don't know, bro. Like, I like you, but I don't know if I like you that much.
The problem is with me, this is a tangent side thing, whatever. Like they keep on getting that one last thing that keeps them hooked a bit longer. They know what they're doing, man. They know what they're doing. It's psychological because I'm like, I don't know. Like this year, I was starting to get a little, and then they hit with Midnight Mass and Arcane, and I was like, two of my favorite shows ever in the span of like 3 months. Okay, fine.
You got
you got me for now.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right, and that's gonna be the position that Xbox wants to be in. It's like, no matter who you are, they're gonna have that thing for you where you're like, okay, do I need Xbox Game Pass? And then they're like, boom, this is coming. You're like, all right, yeah, I guess I do need Xbox Game Pass.
Right. We're a ways off from that. We're not there yet.
We're not quite there yet, yeah. But that's the future they envision. Sam, let's transition right into our next topic, and this is a very interesting one that's had some heated conversations this week from a lot of passionate fans. And this is coming from Jordan Midler of VGC, who took to Reset Era to basically speculate on the future of mainline Final Fantasy titles and Xbox. And according to some statements that he made, he believes that PlayStation is aggressively leveraging their relationship to make it so that Final Fantasy games, the mainline ones, do not come to Xbox this entire generation. Jordan is saying that he doesn't expect them to come to Xbox at all. So Final Fantasy VII Remake, for example, Final Fantasy 16, for example, not coming to Xbox in any way, shape, or form. Alongside of this, he stated that they are still committed to bringing them to PC. So they want pretty much every single game that they release to come to PC. So they're clearly happy with performance on the PC side. But when it comes to the Xbox console ecosystem, no Final Fantasy. So, Sam, a lot of us assumed that Final Fantasy VII Remake timed exclusivity for 1 year. After 1 year, they would announce that it was coming to Xbox. We're well past that. We are well past a year. We're coming up on 2 years and nothing. Not a dribble of information about an Xbox version, and a PC release is out. So, what I want to know and what I want to talk to you about is, do you think there's any merit to this? Do you think that this is a potential reality where Square says, you know, we're happy with performance on PlayStation, we're happy with performance on PC, and we're going to, you know, kind of take this exclusivity deal from PlayStation and just not ship these Final Fantasy games on Xbox?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think Final Fantasy VII Remake alone proves there's merit. I don't know. Yeah, these. Trying to think of how to put this nicely. No, if you want to play those games, you're going to need a PS5, or if you're willing to wait a couple of years, you need a PC, a capable PC, like one of the two, because it's very clear that right now Sony does have some weaknesses in terms of their lineup. One of them that they don't have is JRPGs, and they are leveraging this relationship with Square Enix to ensure that they know what they have with them, and they are keeping it locked in. Absolutely. Like, I don't know the details. Obviously, it sounds like Jordan knows a little more than I do, but you can read between the lines. It's very clear they have a strong relationship. It's very clear that there's some checks. There's some greased palms. They got the butter flowing. And I mean, as an Xbox player, it sucks, right? Of course you want to play those games on your platform. I played through Final Fantasy 15 on my Xbox. I like Final Fantasy 15. That's a controversial opinion, I know, but I thought it was fun. I thought it was enjoyable. They know what they have, and they're going to keep it locked in, because if your first party is taking a little longer to come out, you know, obviously they have some big games this year. They got a few big games this year.
Yes.
But if there's going to be these gaps, because not every team is Insomniac, not every team can keep all these balls juggled in the air, then all right, yeah, Sony Santa Monica, it's going to be 2025 till your next game. Yeah, we need some big stuff in there. Final Fantasy is a great way to do that. And even, I know it's not Final Fantasy, but Square Enix's other big Japanese games, Forspoken, which is from the Final Fantasy 15 team.
Yeah.
You know, the Luminous Engine team. Like, that's, I think, a 2-year timed exclusive, something like that. Like,
that's the current kind of speculation. I don't know if that's been confirmed by them officially or any capacity, but yeah, it sounds like that's longer than 1 year timed exclusivity for.
Yeah. Like, so I don't know. I don't like ever saying never in the context of third party. I think just it's very hard to permanently keep a game that you don't own off of another platform. So I'm not going to say these games never come to Xbox. What I will say is you shouldn't reliably expect them to. Like, if it happens, like if this year or next year Final Fantasy VII Remake hits Xbox, awesome. That's great. I really wouldn't count on it. Don't go in thinking it's going to happen, because it's not going too quickly, at the very least.
Yeah, if you've been holding out for that Xbox version, it might be time to just think about either not playing it or finding where you can play it. Because yeah, it seems like this is PlayStation wants to have brand synergy with specific franchises. They want to make sure that people associate certain franchises with PlayStation. Final Fantasy is a huge target for them. They want to make sure that people associate Final Fantasy with PlayStation, even though it's not technically an exclusive. PlayStation does not own Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy could be published on other platforms. PlayStation wants you to think and know that if you want to play these games, you got to play them on PlayStation. And Square understands that, you know, there's money to be made on the PC side, so they are not going to ignore the PC audience. So they're going to keep doing these PC releases. But in the console space, this is a very, very aggressive move from PlayStation to lock down a very important franchise to a lot of people. You know, it's not important to everyone, but Final Fantasy, I would say, carries a lot of weight for a lot of people. And for some people, that'll be a deciding factor as to what platform they play on. If you're a big JRPG fan, you know, Xbox is struggling. Xbox has struggled, and it sounds like will continue to struggle with JRPGs on its platform. And it's a bummer for Xbox because I know they've been working hard and they've been trying to, build relationships with Japanese publishers and make sure that publishers understand that you can put these games on our platform, and we want to put these games on their platform. But PlayStation also understands that if they are aggressive, it's going to make it so hard, borderline impossible for Xbox to fix that market share gap with JRPGs. And this information is a huge blow for some people. I've seen a lot of people sharing how disappointed, how upset they are, blaming Xbox, blaming Square, blaming PlayStation. And it is a bummer. Like you said, if you're an Xbox fan who loves JRPGs and you love Final Fantasy, that is a huge blow. But I kind of agree that, PlayStation needs to fill gaps. They desperately need to fill gaps. They have teams working on games, but as you talked about, we don't know what their slate looks like. And maybe they just don't have a lot that's ready to announce. And that is why they're leaning so heavily into these partnerships and so heavily into exclusivity to make sure that, even if it's not a first party PlayStation game, that you have a big noteworthy exclusive on PlayStation. We look at Final Fantasy 14. Bigger than ever.
Yep.
Somehow that game continues to be bigger and bigger than ever every single month. They're stopping sales of that game. That is so
literally suffering from success.
Literally.
People say that as a joke. Like, no, they are suffering from their success. Too strong.
They cannot handle the number of sales for their own game. And no word, not a peep about an Xbox version. We've been hearing for years that, oh yeah, there's talks. It could happen. Maybe it'll happen. We've had some positive conversations about bringing it to Xbox, but that's been going on for years. What is the deal there? Outside of, somebody wanting to make sure that this does not go to the Xbox platform. There's no way that Final Fantasy 14 would not do well on the Xbox platform. Everyone's playing it. It is massive. It is a runaway success. So I get people's frustrations. I get it. And PlayStation sounds like they're not going to stop when it comes to making sure that certain franchises don't go anywhere else. And I'm curious to see, what the next big, oh damn, like Knights of the Old Republic, one that I never would have suspected would be a PlayStation exclusive, locked as a PlayStation exclusive.
Wow. I mean, the rumor mill is what it is. I definitely we'll see what the next big one is, but nothing's impossible. We'll have to wait and see.
Nothing's impossible, but yeah, if you're a Final Fantasy fan on Xbox and you don't have a capable PC or you don't have a PS5, you might need to start figuring that out if you want to play them in a timely fashion. That is. Like you said, someday, maybe. Nothing's impossible, so there is a world and a day where Final Fantasy VII Remake comes to Xbox. But is that this year? I feel like we would have heard if that was the case. But so, let's see here. They also touched on the fact that other Square Enix franchises will still be coming to multiple platforms. So it sounds like in terms of Square that this type of deal supposedly is just for Final Fantasy, and some of their other franchises will still come. But we've also seen Square historically skip Xbox for a lot of their franchises. So we don't know what they mean when they say it's coming to other platforms. It doesn't ensure that they're coming to Xbox in any sense, because Square Enix has been one of the publishers notorious for all but. This game's going to come to literally, you're going to be able to play this on your phone before we put this on Xbox. And I'm sorry, that's a bad look. Like, I love Xbox. It's a great platform, but there's no exclusivity deal there. There is no exclusivity deal when it's coming to PlayStation, Switch, mobile, PC. Nobody's buying exclusivity. That is a publisher saying that for us, it's literally not worth putting this version on Xbox because we don't think it's going to perform well. That's what that is, and that's the harsh reality. So you can blame whoever you want there, but it's a bad look for Xbox, and it's a huge bummer that we see that time and time again. And again, this is very JRPG centric. This is a very you could argue, a very niche kind of genre. But at the end of the day, for some people, this is primarily what they play, or this is a big deal. So again, I talked about this in a recent video, but Xbox wants to be the best place to play, and they really have to fix those gaps if that's going to be the reality.
They've gotten a lot better in so many ways. Good Lord. I still look back at like 2016, 2017 and shudder every now and again.
Yeah.
And they're so much better. Light years of different. JRPGs are one area where they haven't been able to close that gap. They've closed so many other gaps. I would even dare say the majority of the gaps in a lot of ways. But JRPGs remain, they're the elephant in the room. Or more specifically, I guess, the elephant not in the room.
Yeah, and it's a bummer because I've genuinely never been more excited about the future and the possibilities for Xbox. And like you said, I think right now they have the most diverse portfolio that they've ever had. So I think that makes it a lot easier to point to the omissions like JRPGs and say, Xbox is killing it on all of these fronts, but this is one front they are not killing it on. So in that sense, it's exciting because Xbox has clearly made enormous strides. Like you talked about, Xbox in 2016 versus Xbox today, night and day. Bleak, dark times for Xbox in 2016. I gotta say, as someone who primarily played on Xbox in 2016, I was not super stoked about the future of Xbox in that particular time period. So I am a lot happier. So again, this is just nitpicking, but it is, a potential gap, and a gap that PlayStation is going to continue to exploit, and they are going to leverage that heavily. And you have people online, you see it all the time, say, this game is not going to do well on Xbox. There's no point in bringing this game to Xbox because it will not perform well. And if that continues to be the case, there's going to be no way for Xbox to build up momentum and close those gaps, because people are just going to associate JRPGs with PlayStation, and Xbox is going to be left in this odd position where they want the games on the platform, but they can't justify it to these publishers, and these publishers want to make money. That's what it's about.
What's that saying? Sometimes you got to run before you can walk. That's kind of the situation Xbox is in with JRPGs. It's like, you're going to have to just make it happen, because until you make it happen in a big way, it's not going to happen naturally. Like, no one, unless they have an exclusivity contract with Sony, like a second party or whatever, no one is ever going to dare dream of skipping out shipping a Western RPG or a shooter on Xbox. Unless you have a deal, you'd be crazy not to do it. That thing will sell well on Xbox, guaranteed. JRPGs aren't there, And I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I have the perfect solution. It's kind of a mess, but you got to fix it. And that takes time, and that takes money. And you might have to offer some money. You might have to get some deals of your own spending in order to just force the issue. I don't know.
It's especially frustrating because we saw Xbox partner so heavily with Square, and they brought every single Final Fantasy game to Xbox Game Pass. So there was a promotion and a period of time where they were just trickling in all of these Final Fantasy games. Pretty much every single one that could be on the Xbox platform was there. And for them to do that and then basically months later be like, okay, guess what? None of the new Final Fantasies this generation are coming to you. That kills the momentum that Xbox is working towards there. Absolutely crushes it. So that's either a savage move from PlayStation saying, nah, we're shutting that down. We see what you're trying to do. No, Xbox, you don't get this. Or that's Square running this program in partnership with Xbox and Game Pass, not seeing the engagement that they want, not seeing the metrics that they want, and being like, all right, I guess we'll lean into PlayStation. Our stuff does better on PlayStation, so we're just going to fully embrace that partnership because PlayStation is willing to give us that bag. So I don't know. I get it. I get why people are upset. All right, I'm going to give a quick shout out to all the amazing people hanging out with us. Again, if you are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out, feed that algorithm. If you're listening on audio services, like or rate the show, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm going to get to some super chats real quick here. All right, we got Harjeet Chani who says, is E3 dead? Is it needed in the industry? We're going to come back to that very soon, I promise. Don't you worry. That is a key discussion in today's episode. So you just hold on just a minute, I promise. RDX Son of Et says, Days Gone fail, but Ghosts of Tsushima big success? Question mark. I guess we can touch on this drama real quick.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, one of the basically leads from Studio Bend has come out and criticized the perceived success of Ghost of Tsushima for selling 8 million copies, saying that Days Gone was considered a failure, and he is saying that it also sold 8 million copies in a year and a half. There's been some people arguing the data and saying that that's maybe not the case, blah blah blah, but that's the kind of overall, I guess, drama, if you will, regarding that.
Yeah.
And then he's gone on to basically criticize a lot of PlayStation's kind of policies and studios and the way that they kind of perceive success within PlayStation and all of the failed pitches for a sequel and another Resistance game. So there's been a lot of interesting nuggets that have come out of that from someone who's, been inside of PlayStation. So what's your kind of take on this? Do you think it's fair for PlayStation to the scream Ghost of Tsushima 8 million successes from the rooftops, and let's say, the figures that have been thrown around 6 million ish for Days Gone? Do you think that's fair to consider that a disappointment?
This is for something we're touching on quick. This is a loaded, complicated topic. This is
one word.
This
all
is,
right, that's all you get.
This, one word. Messy. The one word answer is messy. Okay, real quick. I legitimately think this is an issue where there are faults on both sides. I think there's no way there aren't faults on both sides. Clearly, some of Bend Studios' old management, like Jeff Ross and John Garvin and a couple of other older guys who have left, clearly they didn't exactly mesh and get along with some of the studio management, some of the more local management. Clearly, they liked Sean Layden more than they liked Jim Ryan and maybe Herman Hulst. I'm not going to get into that. That's their opinion. They worked there. I don't know. What I do know is there's a lot of metrics Sony goes by for success. Sales is one, critical success is another. If you want to directly compare Ghost of Tsushima and Ben's work, look, Sucker Punch had a new IP canceled as well. There were some leaked assets that came out, I think, last year, or was it late 2020? I don't remember. Point is, they had a game that got canceled. They were working on Ghost of Tsushima for several years. Ghost of Tsushima also had a troubled development. It's been in development since 2014. Right around the same time Days Gone was in development. I think Days Gone started in 2013, so a year difference, whatever. The point is, both took a long time to make. Both were big learning curves for their respective studios. One comes out and is a critical success. The other one isn't. It sucks. I understand it would suck to spend so much time in your life working on something and it not be received that way, or in a great way, for one reason or another. But the reality is that is what happened. And so I know Jeff Grubb has come out and said that Days Gone actually sold 6 million, but whatever. Even if it did sell this lockstep pace, whatever, with Ghost of Tsushima, if all things are equal except critical success, then yeah, unfortunately, it does make more sense to bolster one of them up.
Yeah, and that's just, again, Days Gone did not sell poorly in the grand scheme of things, and it wasn't even reviewed all that poorly in the grand scheme of things, but I think, we hear the people banging the drum when it comes to PlayStation bangers.
Yep.
PlayStation is associating its first party lineup with these critically acclaimed Game of the Year contender bangers. And Days Gone, for a lot of people, wasn't that. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's not that it was a bad game. A lot of people loved Days Gone. I think it just wasn't in, Ghost of Tsushima, in the Game of the Year conversation. 100%. People loved that game. And Days Gone just wasn't that. So I think that's really where that comes down to. I don't think it's fair to say that one is a failure and one is a runaway success. You're looking at sales data, but when it comes to critical reception, I think it's fair to say Ghost of Tsushima is way more highly regarded than Days Gone. And that's, again, that's just the reality. I don't think it's a dig at Days Gone. That's not my intent here. I think that's just the general consensus is that Ghost of Tsushima is a quote-unquote better game than Days Gone.
Yeah. So, I guess we can just be thankful Bend is getting another shot at doing something new. They have said publicly they're working on new IP. Herman Hulst is very happy with it, so we'll see what that looks like.
Yeah. Brian Hopkins says, been a blast hanging with you in the chat for over 7 months. Cheers to many more. Cheers to you, Brian, you stud. Also, quick side note here. Some people are saying that Crossfire X is not coming to Xbox Game Pass. the
Yeah, that's
campaign?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's did we say it was at some point? If we did,
We
I
mentioned it
apologize.
in partnerships, so yeah, I think that
Okay.
was
Yeah, it might have just been in the grand scheme of Xbox games coming up is what we meant there. But yeah, no, it isn't coming to Game Pass.
um
And it's coming in February.
and I'm sorry, that's a terrible move. Like, I'm not trying to dig at Crossfire X, but compared to everything else launching in February, I think that is kind of a, again, I haven't played the game, so it's unfair for me to call it, a weak offering, but I think February is an awful time to release Crossfire X, in my opinion. I think you could move that a couple months and it would probably be way more successful, but what do I know? What do I know? I'm not running the numbers, I'm not running the books here, but when they announced late in the game, after everything was already confirmed for February, that it was coming out in February, I was like, what on earth are you doing? You knew all this stuff was coming out. It's not like you scheduled this in February months and months out, and then all these other games kind of fell into place. You knew what February looked like, and you said, yeah, we're going to release Crossfire X. And I don't know. Maybe it's just that I'm not that excited for Crossfire X, but I think
It's a bold strategy, Miles. Let's see how it plays out.
let's see how it plays out. RG Chani says, do we know how many subs Ubisoft Plus has? If there is a large difference with Game Pass Ultimate, it could be a few dollars per Game Pass Ultimate for Ubisoft Plus. We're still thinking in older terms, say 70 million Game Pass Ultimate subs, $3 each, pretty big check. I don't know how many subs that Ubisoft Plus has currently, and I do know for a fact that we are a ways away from Game Pass Ultimate being 70 million. A long ways away from that. So I see what you're getting at, and maybe down the road it makes more financial sense to bundle it in for a heavily discounted rate, but as Xbox Game Pass Ultimate stands right now, I don't think that that's the best move.
Yeah, I'm just looking around. I thought that they confirmed it hit over 1 million, but I can't see that anywhere, so I might be getting it mixed up with something else.
Yeah, I haven't heard any milestones about Ubisoft
Yeah,
Plus, which
I'm not
is
seeing. I do know. I will say this: EA is very happy with EA Play being in Game
yeah,
Pass Ultimate and PC
yep.
Game Pass. They have said this multiple times in their financial earnings call that it ain't going anywhere anytime soon. They're thrilled. The growth is exploding. I think it's over 8 million now,
Yeah.
including the Game Pass Ultimate, which is like a 150 to 200% increase. It's something absurd. It's something absurd like that.
So, and having a big player like EA bang the drum of Xbox Game Pass is going to help when it comes to partnerships with other publishers. Because when EA loves money, they love money more than a lot of publishers do. We know that. So there has to be a financial benefit for them to be happy with this deal and continue to do this deal. So it's not just an engagement metric for them in any capacity, because they want to make money, and that's what this is about. So again, I think down the road we could see some more aggressive partnerships with Ubisoft Plus, but I think Ubisoft is still trying to figure out its subscription service, if I'm being honest. I think it's trying to figure out its cadence, its pricing, its catalog, and I think, bringing it to Xbox will give them a better idea of the value. Because it's on PC only, and then they have confirmed that this will not be coming to PlayStation in the near future. So
and EA Play was the same way. I will know. It took EA Play a long time to come to PlayStation. So interesting. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Mr. Joanna Dark says, I am currently playing Fantasian via Apple Arcade from Mistwalker, and it's a great JRPG. To fill in those JRPG gaps, should Xbox Global Publishing reach out to other JRPG devs to make games for the platform?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the simple answer.
Based on Jez and Jeff Grubb's reporting, it seems like publishing is getting a huge increase. Publishing is very quietly sort of getting the same budget increase that the rest of the studios and Bethesda have. Seems like they have a lot of projects they're working on, actually. So yeah, I don't know if one's happening right now. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But yeah, get a JRPG project in there. And the great thing about Game Pass is you might have to lose some money on it, but it's okay because you're feeding the algorithm. You're feeding Game Pass overall. It might not make a ton of money, but it'll bring in the people who want that particular game, and it'll be covered by the stupid success of Starfield and everything else.
Yeah, yes. A lot of it is like, maybe some titles within the service don't, entirely justify their price if you look at just sheer numbers. But when it comes to making sure you have that thing for that person, I think stuff like that goes a long way. And once you get them in to the service and they see everything that they can play and you continue to give them what they want, they will stay subscribed. So even if initially the cost is high, I think long term it'll definitely pay off. And yes, Xbox Global Publishing is going to be a huge pillar of Xbox's strategy moving forward, because the reality is it is so much easier to partner with somebody else who's already making a game to publish that game than it is to build a new studio from the ground up and build a new IP from the ground up with your on your own dime. So Xbox wants to leverage partnerships, get exciting games, and I think JRPGs would be an excellent way to do that. You don't have to buy every single developer in the world to have an amazing slate of Xbox, first or second party, I guess if we want to get technical here, second party exclusives on Xbox. Digital Swords says Xbox gives more ways and games to play, but so many gamers choose to focus on the ones they can't play. SM. Like I said, for some people, those games that they can't play are the games that they love the most. And I don't think it's unfair for them to be upset that they can't play that. Again, maybe that's not your jam. That's not your joint. But I think it's, totally fair for someone to be upset that they can't play their favorite games on the platform that they prefer to play on.
Or even any games from a certain genre on the platform.
Yeah. It's, we all have our affinities to certain platforms, whether it's PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, whatever. And, if the next Castlevania comes out and I can't play that on Xbox, for example, I'd be bummed. And that's just, I understand there's the business proponent of it, but like we said, it's just a nitpick in the grand scheme of things when you're looking at Xbox as this big web of everything that they're doing, and they are doing a lot of things well. But it was worth talking about for people who love JRPGs. All right, Sam, while we're on the topic of Square Enix and them being this beloved publisher, we got to talk a little bit about NFTs. And I know everyone's probably sick to death of seeing the 3 letters NFT online. But to kind of kick off the new year, Square Enix, they chose violence. There's no other way to put it. They chose violence to kick off the new year. And the president detailed this letter and this mission for Square Enix vision for NFTs in gaming. I gotta read one particularly kind of jarring line to me that stood out, and it's the one a lot of people have been running with, and it's part of this letter from the president of Square Enix says, "I realize that some people who, quote, play to have fun, and who currently form the majority of players, have voiced their reservations toward these new trends, and understandably so. However, I believe that there will be a certain number of people whose motivation is to, quote, play to contribute." And to me, that was the most dystopian, cynical kind of reason to make games that I've ever heard in my life. Play to contribute. Let me tell you what play to contribute looks like in a game. Imagine Minecraft. Imagine Minecraft the game, but you're literally working in the mines. And you are literally working and digging up diamonds, and then Square Enix is selling those diamonds online and making money. That's play to contribute. So obviously, I have reservations. A lot of people have reservations about this. How did you feel after reading this letter?
I'm trying not to go on a rant here. I'm trying to
it's
keep
so
myself
easy
restrained.
to. It's
for,
so
for anyone who doesn't know me, I despise NFTs and I despise crypto bros. I have nothing but contempt for the entire thing, the entire process, and how it's trying to infect gaming. Square Enix really wants to take a good thing and try to wreck it. That's what I see when I see this. Literally the phrasing of saying, however, we know this is great. We know this is what people want. However, I can't believe it. I mean, I can, but I can't believe it. It's companies are trying to get in on the buzzword digital gold rush. And just like many actual gold rushes, they're going to find that it's not actually most of them getting rich. It's just a handful of scamming prospectors. That's what it's going to be. We've seen extreme backlash to NFTs in gaming so far, like with Stalker 2 and how those plans got reversed. Even though they weren't even going to technically be affecting a lot of the game, it was just essentially a raffle and a giveaway or whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
here's the great thing, you can do that without having to use NFTs.
Hmm.
You don't like you can still have your metahuman like putting a person in the game come to our studio and we'll scan you whatever. You can still do that. I don't know, like I'm trying to think of other nicer ways to say this, but dude, I don't want a future where you're working, where a game is a job. You know, where like where you're going there and you're slaving away, and maybe you get a tiny percentage increase. Maybe you get like a tiny a skim off the top of what you earn, and the rest of it goes to some company. One of the few beautiful things, one of the rare few things about digital goods, is that it is infinitely reproducible.
Yes, that is
There
fundamentally why
are
the internet's
some
awesome.
there are some downsides, okay? There are some many downsides and many issues, but one of the great things is if there's a digital piece of art or a digital picture, I can have it, and you can have it, and Tom can have it, and this guy can have it, and that girl can have it, and like everyone can have it. It's okay. Digital copies of games aren't going to run out. You know, I have a disc of Mortal Kombat 9. You know, like no one else can have that disc. I have it. But if that game was available digitally, anyone could purchase it. Anyone could benefit from it. Um, I don't know. Just I red flags all
Red,
over the place.
woo,
I don't
woo,
like.
yeah.
I don't like.
What's upsetting about it is, listen, I understand that companies are trying to make money and they want to explore this avenue as a way to, potentially increase profitability of games. Whatever. I totally understand that. But don't you dare mask this as something that is in the best interests of me or in the best interests of the game, because that
Yes.
is false. You were lying to me. And I'm seeing a lot of companies spin this as a way that's something that is good for me, and I know for a fact that this is not good for me. This is not better for me. You know how I know that's true? Because we're going to have NFTs in our games before we are going to be able to sell or trade digital games that we own. Like, everyone's preaching digital ownership and how you, with an NFT, you own this thing. You don't even let me own my digital games. How dare you tell me that this is what's good for me and I get to own this when I can't even own my digital games? And that is the fundamental flaw with this big push here. Is I get that companies are going to try it. We're going to see people, despite all backlash and pressure, put this in the games and try to make them work in a way that's maybe not widely beloved, but at least accepted. And I think that's going to be the baseline. Is people are going to keep getting pushback, keep fighting this until they can put it in the game in a way that people don't absolutely loathe and despise. And it was the same with loot boxes, a lot of other monetization practices, and I get that people are, again, trying to increase profitability of these games. But I have a huge problem when publishers are telling me that this will fundamentally impact how their games are developed. They're going to
Yep.
change the design principles. They're going to change the gameplay loop of their games to cater to NFTs. That, for me, is the biggest red flag and the most concerning thing that all of these developers are telling me.
Yep.
But
Well said.
I don't know. Again, I will say that I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with trying to figure out a way to introduce digital ownership. It's something that we've been struggling with for a long time. Like you talked about, the internet age, the digital age. It's so easy to share files, give files, and that's kind of the beauty of the internet. But I also understand that for certain items, it feels like there is no value to certain things, and people, when they pay money, want to guarantee that there is value to it. So I understand that, with NFTs, there is that potential there to have value with a digital good, but I think the way that these investors are drooling over it tells me that it's not in our best interests.
Yep. The last thing I'll say on, and Miles, you're absolutely right, is all you need to know is a ton of people who aren't in gaming and are just get rich quick scheme artists are trying to get into gaming because of this. That should tell you everything you need to know.
That's really all you need to know. And again, I see a lot of people who support NFTs online and whatever. If that's your jam, that's your vibe, cool. I get that fundamentally and inherently it doesn't have to be nefarious. Like, NFTs as a concept don't have to be a bad, ugly thing. But a lot of people are trying to quickly and easily make money off of this, and that's going to lead to a lot of really ugly things in games for a couple of years. Some super chats here before we move on to our next topic. Brian Hopkins, Xbox should save the money it would take to get Crossfire X into Game Pass and spend that money on getting Evil Dead instead. Oh, dang. Brian, a man of culture, coming into this chat, dropping big facts. Okay, if we're talking about the get for February obviously would be Elden Ring. That would be the most mega get hype moment of all time if Elden Ring was coming day one in Xbox Game Pass. Is it happening? I would say probably not. I don't know how I would react, honestly, if that did happen. If somehow, some way, Elden Ring gets announced day one in Game Pass, my God, the conversation online that day is going to be spicy as hell. But Evil Dead, not only does that benefit Xbox Game Pass with having this cool multiplayer title launching, but it also helps Evil Dead get a shot. Because if Evil Dead does launch in February with all of these other humongous games, I don't know how well it's going to sell. As an enormous Evil Dead fan, as someone championing this game and wants it to do well, I don't know how well it's going to sell in the stacked month of February. Are you on board, Sam? Evil Dead for Game Pass? Are we?
You know what? You know what, man? I'm not anywhere even remotely as interested in this game as you are. I know you are the hype man. You're front and center. I respect the energy. This would actually be a good Game Pass game. This would be, if that game comes out in February, like, it doesn't stand a chance. If you put it in Game Pass, it stands a chance.
Yes.
Elden Ring doesn't need Game Pass.
No.
Elden Ring is just fine on its own. Elden Ring is going to be okay. Evil Dead, that would be a good idea.
All right, let's do it. At Xbox, if you're listening, pick up the phone, make the call up Saber. Let's do it. Let's get it in there. All right, next topic. We had a super chat about this earlier, but there's been some developments regarding the future of E3 and really the uncertain future of E3, because it's been kind of a roller coaster. E3 or the ESA announced that there would be no in-person event for E3 this year due to the Omicron variant. Since that initial announcement, we've seen our good pal Jeff Keighley instantly take to Twitter and announce Summer Game Fest back on 2022, just licking his chops. Just
a second later, he was on the ball.
That was just a real sassy move, and I love it. But reports from some folks at IGN and others have said that the plans to cancel an in-person event for E3 actually took place back in November of last year, and that there is no confirmation whatsoever right now for a digital-only event. A lot of outlets are reporting that E3 will be digital-only, but when asked by reporters if there will be a digital event, there is no confirmation of a digital E3 this year either. So as it stands officially, E3 is kind of in limbo right now. So I feel like this conversation has happened every year for the last 5, 6, 7 years. But Sam, is E3 dead? Are we just watching a corpse twitch?
It's been said for years, and like, here's the thing, Miles. Here's the thing. E3 might not be dead, but E3 is dead. I'm sorry. And look, I got to go to E3 3 years in a row. I went in 2017, 2018, and 2019. 3 years, right before 2019 was actually right before I joined Windows Central, around the same time as you. And I loved E3, okay? I love in-person events. Like, I can't overstate this. I am in my element in in-person events. I love seeing people from all over the world. It's the only time you get to see reporters and developers and marketing and all these people all come together. It's just a great melting pot. But the sad, unfortunate truth is that the last 3 years have shown it's not necessary. Mm-hmm. You don't have to. You can demand attention just by doing your own thing if you have something that stands out. Now, you're going to threaten the mental health of journalists who are trying to cover all these events all over the place, and 2020 in particular was just not good. It was not well organized. 2021 was better. I don't know about how you feel, but I think 2021 was a lot better, a lot smoother. What is the ESA doing? Like, what is the ESA providing here in terms of I know they do some lobbying. They do some lobbying to the government, and that's important. Like that work, it's dirty work, but it has to be done. That's just the reality of business and the nature of how these things work. But if you pay all these millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to the ESA, what are you getting at E3? If it's a digital show, if it is not in person, if you're not having people walk up to your booth, what do you get out of it? Because as best I can tell, you're getting a little marketing logo. You get to say we're part of E3,
And
as if
that's what people are
means something.
realizing with the last 3 years being what they were, with not having an in-person E3. A lot of people realizing that if I just go online and I put on a show of my own, or I partner with Jeff Keighley, for example, for Summer Game Fest, I not only is it cheaper, but I have way more eyes on it. Like, so the value of spending all this money to get a booth at E3, I think a lot of people just understand now that that means nothing. That means so much less than it used to mean, with everyone doing everything remotely. People are just adapting to doing things remotely, and now when you tell people that they have to go somewhere in person to do something or work in person somewhere, people are like, "No. I don't we don't need to. We know we don't need to anymore." And I think that's where a lot of it comes down what a lot of it comes down to is I
Yeah.
from what I understand, Xbox probably wanted to, or maybe still plans to do, some kind of in-person fan fest type event for E3 window this year. Um, and I think the main reason they want to do that is just to have that connection with their fans. Not necessarily that it's E3, but I
Right.
think Xbox still sees value in having their fans come to these showcases and these events. And I think there's value there. And but a PlayStation, an Xbox, and Nintendo could easily just go and do their own thing. So Xbox has been kind of the last standout, I feel like, when it comes to having this affiliation with E3. Do you
Mhm.
think that 2022 is the year where Xbox finally says, like, okay, we can just do our own thing. We don't need to officially kind of affiliate with this, or what do you think their approach will be with this news?
I mean, Miles, if there isn't even a digital E3, I would say their hand is forced.
I
No?
guess that's true. Yeah.
Because IGN, Rebecca Valentine at IGN, her report indicates that like the ESA isn't even sure that a digital event is going to happen, which is just, I'm sorry, but that's mismanagement beyond the Omicron variant. That's mismanagement beyond the pandemic. If you can't even get something together digitally, if you can't offer something digitally, that comes back to what are publishers getting out of it. If the ESA is realizing they don't have anything to offer, if it's digital only, that's a red flag. To
Yeah.
me personally, I'm not part of Xbox, but if I was, that would be a red flag to me. That like, what are you actually getting out of this? Now, I know there are a few things that complicate that. Phil Spencer is still on the board for the ESA, I believe, and he consults, but
Oh,
not on the
okay.
board, but like, he does consult. He's one of the people who talks to them regularly, so that complicates things. I get that, but at a certain point, you have to cut your losses. At a certain point, what are you getting out of it? The Xbox Bethesda show last year was great. It wasn't
Yes.
great because it had anything to do with E3 at all. That had nothing to do with it. Zilch, nada.
Exactly. Yeah, it was in the
I
same
don't even
window, but
I know it was technically part of E3, but I want to say they didn't even call it the E3 show. I want to correct me if I'm wrong, Miles, but they just called it the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase.
they did. Yep. You're
So
absolutely right. Yeah.
even then they were kind of inching away, like slowly starting to stealthily move away. I think if they're gonna leave, this is the year to leave.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty about ESA, and a lot of people are just frankly upset with the way ESA has been handling things for years. So it's not hard for a lot of these companies, and especially on the media side, after the whole doxing situation, it's not hard for a lot of
Yep.
these journalists to be like, all right, well then bye, peace out, good luck, good riddance. Um, and so people like Jeff Grubb are talking about, Summer Game Fest inherently just completely taking the place of E3. Even mentioning maybe Judges Week comes back in the form of Summer Games Fest, and that would basically completely eliminate any sort of need for E3. I know E3
Yeah.
still carries weight in a mainstream sense, like outside of our bubble, outside of the people who are engaged with this every day, E3 still has value. So I don't want to say that E3 has no value and there's no way that it'll ever come back in any capacity, but I feel like its value across the board dwindles with every year there is no in-person event. And I think after 3 years of no in-person events, everyone's figured out how to do it without E3. People have realized that they just don't need E3 anymore, and I think that's going to be its biggest fault. Is they're either going to have to, reduce how much they charge people or stop charging people to partner with them, because otherwise people are just going to put on their own showcase and have it be just as successful.
Yep.
So I don't know. Pour one out for E3, I guess. Maybe again,
R.I.P.
the E3 is dead. Maybe a bit hyperbolic, but is E3 on life support? Yes, E3 is hanging on by a thread, I think, as it stands. Financially, I just don't understand how they come back, I guess, in any way that's even remotely close to what it used to. So goodbye E3. You will be missed.
Au revoir.
Super chat real quick here from, let me make sure I didn't miss any. All right. Super chat here from Don Otaku, who says, what games do you think Xbox/Bethesda will show/announce at this year's E3? I feel like there's way too many games they can pick from, and I don't realistically see them showing everything. All right, Sam, let's get into this. So,
first show of the year, and we're talking about what they show this summer. That's good. Good energy.
Good, exactly. Looking towards the future. Like we said, 2022, it's going to be our year, Sam. It's going to be our year. So, Xbox at the E3 window, because again, E3, we just talked about E3 being up in the air. Summer window for Xbox. What are they showing? We know they have a ton of projects to potentially show. What are they focusing on this year?
Simple answer, honestly. The focus is Starfield. I've said this before, Miles. I don't think people still quite understand how big a Bethesda Game Studios title launching exclusively for Xbox, launching into Game Pass is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I know Fallout 76 was a hiccup, a misfire. The studio has admitted that. They've turned it around into a success now. But like a big, proper single-player adventure from Bethesda, this game's going to be huge. And we know Todd Howard loves to do his spiel. He loves to do his big presentation just a few months before the game comes out. What they did with Fallout 4, you're going to see that for Starfield. You're going to see that for Starfield. You're going to see that this year. It's going to take up a huge chunk of time. Real rapid fire. At some point, they're going to have to talk about Redfall. Summer is kind of a vague release window. What does summer mean? Is it June? Is it July? Is it August? Are you cheating and using the calendar and technically it's September?
September 21st is summer still.
Right. So, like, I don't know. So depending on where it falls, they're going to show Redfall as well. I would also assume they show more on some of the 2023 games that are further along. So Avowed. I'll be honest, it was probably the one thing I was really surprised by for Xbox last year is we didn't get an update on Avowed. I thought we were going to. I thought we were going to see something. We're gonna this year. It is going to happen. I think the hiccup there might be, how do you show a big RPG from Obsidian and a big RPG from Bethesda at the same time, but maybe the difference in settings is going to help, because Obsidian's like, this is a fantasy game, it's in the Pillars of Eternity universe, Bethesda is doing sci-fi, so maybe it's not as awkward as you think.
They can get away with it. You have your futuristic sci-fi and then your old school fantasy, I guess.
Yeah. So that's 3 games. I'll throw a 4th one out. I think we see more on Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
I think this is the year. I don't know exactly how much, but we see some more on Perfect Dark this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we have a good idea of what's coming from Xbox, and I think a lot of what this year will be are updates for games that have been announced. I think, Avowed is a great pick. I would actually like to see a separate showcase in spring from Xbox that features some nearer releases. We know Starfield's going to be their big summer kind of showcase, but I would love to see Redfall in spring. If this game is truly coming out in summer, I don't think there's any reason we can't see gameplay ahead. And I think it would personally be a little disappointing if we didn't see Redfall gameplay until theoretically a month or 2 before its launch. Because
I agree.
People have a ton of questions. People think it's Left 4 Dead still, based on that first trailer, and they need to correct that. They need to show people that this is not Left 4 Dead. Because I think, as we've seen with the Rainbow Six Extraction discourse, people will be kind of sick of Left 4 Dead now. For a while,
Right.
people were like, "Where's Left 4 Dead? I want Left 4 Dead to come back." And now people are like, "Okay, I'm kind of I'm kind of done with Left 4 Dead.
You know, we're good. We're good. We got enough
Stop,
now.
stop,
We got
please,
enough now.
please stop."
No, they need to show that it is a proper arcane adventure. Just you can play it with your friends now. That they need to show that. No, I think actually now that I'm thinking about it, I think you got the right idea. A spring showcase and then a summer showcase. Maybe like Redfall, Avowed, Forza Motorsport. Maybe
Yeah.
like show those three this spring because we know locked down under NDAs, mountains of NDAs because nothing leaked. But Forza Motorsport had tests all year long through
Hmm.
2021. That game is very quietly coming along together. I'm not sure it comes out this year. I'd like it to, but I'm a little uncertain. I feel like it could be this fall or it could be spring next year. I
That,
think like it depends. It depends on how far along it is, but it would be fair to see that. And yeah, maybe a couple games this spring, and then summer is Starfield plus, hey, here's a peek at Perfect Dark late 2023, or Hellblade 3 summer. I mean Hellblade 2, sorry, summer 2023, and that sort of thing.
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat when it comes to Forza. A lot of people are saying that Forza is 100% coming out this year, and I think there is a definite chance that it comes out this fall. But I think you're right; it absolutely could be moved into spring because this is the new engine. This is the blueprint and foundation of the next several Forza Motorsports games, and they are making sure that when this hits, this is the gold standard for racing sims. And if they can put it out near Gran Turismo, I think that's going to be a big power play because people have concerns over the graphical fidelity of what we've seen with Gran Turismo. I think it looks great, but again, I think when you're comparing it directly to Forza Horizon 5, which is a cross-gen game, I think people are going to be really, really surprised by what they deliver with the next Forza Motorsport, which will not be a cross-gen game. This game is going to look absolutely bananas. So again, they're taking all the time that they need there, and there is no rush to
Yep.
get that out for fall. Is
A-
the moral of
And
the
very
story.
quickly, I just want to peg something on very quickly, because what you said kind of jarred my memory. I think that's one of the exciting things about this year for Xbox is as great as their games were in the back half of 2021. I love Psychonauts 2, my personal game of the year. Forza Horizon 5, amazing. Halo Infinite was my game of the year runner-up. Those were all cross-gen games.
Uh-huh.
This year, Redfall isn't coming to Xbox One. Starfield isn't coming to Xbox One. If Forza Motorsport hits this year, it ain't coming to Xbox One. That's exciting.
Yeah.
This is next gen.
Now
You know,
this
this
is next gen.
this is when it actually, or current gen rather. It's current gen.
It's current
It's
gen.
current gen.
And it'll be
We're far
current gen
enough
for
along.
like a decade because nobody can get consoles. So
Well,
um
that's the other thing, but that's exciting to me.
yeah.
That's exciting to me.
So again, I think in the super chat they bring up an excellent point is that Xbox will not show everything. Xbox 100% has the flexibility now to show you what they want to show you and
Right.
time that with release schedules, release windows, and hold things in their pocket. Because sure, a lot of us want them to come out and just dump 100 games. Here's everything the Xbox Game Studios is working on. Here are all the code names confirmed. Here's everything. Here's our slate for the next decade. It doesn't really make sense for them to do that when they can have strategic marketing pushes for specific games. They don't want you to be hyped about every single game all at once as much as people like us want to be hyped about every single game all at once. That's not what they want. That doesn't make sense for kind of release schedules. So I'm expecting one new announcement of some kind this summer. It's I don't really have a guess as to which of the code names they will reveal, but
Pull one out of a hat.
exactly.
Whichever one is farthest along, and they feel there's going to be a CGI trailer for whichever one they feel is a good idea, because they're going to reveal at least one new game,
Oh,
at least.
at
Like
least one.
they focused mainly on stuff that was coming up and known last year, but they still revealed Contraband. So,
Yeah, and I think again, Xbox Global Publishing. I think there's going to be some reveals there from Xbox Global
yeah.
Publishing that aren't first party per se, but are still Xbox exclusives. And again, this Project Shaolin that's been rumbling around. Let me see that. Let me see that in action. I want
Kojima,
Kojima.
man.
Kojima
A
has
little too
since
early
come
last
out
year, but
and said that he is in fact working on 2 games.
There we
He
go.
has confirmed he's working on 2. So there's been speculation that 1 is Death Stranding, and because he was working on Death Stranding, that he would not be working on an Xbox exclusive. But the man himself, he has come out and said he's got 2. He's got 2, and he talked about 1 bridging the gap of entertainment or being this experience that's
Being
like
something different.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he emphasized that one of the projects is going to be far more experimental when it comes to video games as a medium. So who knows? I mean, again, the speculation is this weird cloud project, and we know Kojima was working with Google Stadia to do that, and we know that Kim Swift from Google Stadia is now at Xbox to supposedly facilitate this. But I'll be very curious to see what comes of that, what that looks like if it is revealed. And if it's a Kojima horror joint, I've been playing Death Stranding, and it's far more horror.
Huh?
It's far more horror than I was expecting, and I was like, okay, you know what? I get it. I want that Kojima horror game. This man does some weird ass shit, and I want to see him just get a big bag of money to keep making weird stuff.
Heck yeah.
Gotta give a quick shout out to the 200 people hanging with us. Welcome back. You know, Xbox Chaturdays took the holidays off, but we're back at it. Appreciate you guys tuning in live. If you are watching live, hit the like button, share it out. If you're watching or listening on podcast services, leave a review, rate the show, all that good stuff. We are going to jump into our next topic here, Sam, which is Xbox and VR. Because this week at CES, in a move that I personally didn't really see coming at CES, I will say, is PlayStation announced the PSVR 2. So Sony has basically confirmed this long rumored PSVR 2, upgraded hardware, detailed all the specs of this device, their focus, or not, I shouldn't say focus, but their commitment to VR, and showed us a Horizon spinoff in VR as well. So this kind of got me thinking when PlayStation came out and detailed the specs of this device, which they're saying 4K resolution up to 120 frames per second on this device. That tells me that PlayStation is serious about offering hardware that offers a premium gaming experience in VR. And there's been a lot of people who have basically come out and said, what was it, Andy? I think Andy from VGC was the most infamous one that said that this is pretty much a distraction for PlayStation. This isn't something that PlayStation necessarily should be doing. So this got me thinking, does Xbox need to compete in the VR space right now? Does Xbox need a headset? Should Xbox partner with other headsets to bring it to the platform? Or, like Andy is saying, is that a distraction?
Okay, so I've got 2 different answers. Again, one of my favorite moves to pull. I'm going to answer it in order. No, Xbox does not need to. Xbox 100% does not need to go in on this. And I'll circle back around and I'll explain why. However, I respectfully disagree with Andy that this is just a distraction for PlayStation. Because they've clearly invested a lot more. You know, they bought multiple studios last year, the biggest being Firesprite, big UK team with VR experience, and now we already see that bearing fruit just a few months later. You know, Guerrilla is partnering with Firesprite saying, hey, we're going to do this Horizon game in VR. We're going to bring the world of Horizon to virtual reality. The rumor, as it is that other studios at PlayStation are being encouraged to do the same thing. Maybe not a giant full game, but an experience. Like, do something, whether it's a new IP or a current IP you are working on, and do it in VR. And I think that makes sense for them, because one of the biggest failings of the original PlayStation VR, in addition to the hardware, because it was a nightmare to set up, was just there wasn't a lot of big first-party games. You know, there were a couple. Asobi team did an amazing job with Astrobot. That was a Game of the Year contender. I know a lot of people who love that game. I heard Blood and Truth was really fun. You know, there were some good games in there, but it didn't get the proper support it needed.
Yeah.
And it seems like, we'll see, but it seems like PlayStation is course correcting and they're going to do it right this time. My issue with Xbox getting into VR, Miles, is that Xbox finally has their first party rolling. Yes. They've finally got it. God knows it took them long enough, as we've mentioned before, but they've got it figured out. They delivered 3 amazing games, 3 arguable Game of the Year contenders, back to back to back, in the back half of 2021. This year, Redfall, we don't know a lot, but I love Arcane. I trust Arcane. Starfield, come on. Starfield's going to be in those talks. Starfield's going to be great. 2023 and beyond, it gets wild. VR right now would hamstring Xbox. VR right now would be saying, "Hey, these resources you're taking in, creating this Game Pass war machine that's just going to chug and chug and chug, and we're going to deliver game after game, quarter after quarter." It would bring a lot of that to a screeching halt. Because the problem is you can't dip your toes in VR.
No.
If you dip your toes in VR, it's just going to be a complete failure. If you're going to do VR, you need to do VR like how Meta, God, it doesn't feel right saying that now,
God, no.
Formerly Oculus. You have to do it like they're doing it, or where they invested and went to Capcom and said, "Hey, we want Resident Evil 4 VR. We're going to help you make this. We're going to help you bring it over." They've got other teams. They acquired Ready at Dawn, Sanzaru, Beat Games, a couple of others I'm missing. They've got games coming there. PlayStation seems like they're going in the right way. For Xbox to dive in on VR would be to cripple its gaming output right now, and they cannot. They cannot afford that in any way. PlayStation can. Because PlayStation, you can disagree with like their lineup or say, "Oh, well, some of their games aren't for me," but PlayStation, in addition to their first party with the Final Fantasy time deals and some of the other time deals that they're working on, they have a solid lineup coming. They've got Horizon and Gran Turismo back-to-back early this year. God of War ostensibly sometime this year. We'll see if that makes it or not. Might get delayed, but it's coming. Insomniac doing incredible work. But now their work with VR isn't taking away from that. They've invested strategically so they can go, "Hey, now we're doing VR the right way in addition to our other big tentpole games." They're not... we'll see, because maybe something changes, but right now, I don't see Sony crippling itself to go into VR and do it the right way. Microsoft would. Now, is there going to come a time that maybe they could get to that point and they could invest if they grow more? Sure. That, if Microsoft grows a lot more and they grow their gaming division, and we know they will eventually, we can reassess and we can have that talk. But right now, it would be a bad idea. That's my take.
Yeah, I think you and I are on the same page. I took to Twitter and kind of shared my thoughts on this, but a lot of it kind of echoes what you're saying. And, some hardcore Xbox fans might not like to hear this, but the reality is I think PlayStation has earned the right to, experiment with VR more than Xbox when it comes to first party, because they have proven with their last generation that they can do VR and they can still put out amazing first party games. And they did. People argue that the PlayStation 4 generation is one of the best generations of all time. So there is something to be said about PlayStation's experimentation with VR and their focus, because they are adding teams. They are making sure that, this isn't going to distract from their first party output, because again, their business model right now is catered around these exclusives that make you buy a PlayStation.
Right.
They're not going to stop doing that. And they understand that if they don't have that, that they will fail. Their entire business hinges on these exclusives. So there's no world where they allow themselves to not have these big exclusives outside of VR, because they can look at their attachment rate for the original PSVR, and they know it's a smaller percentage. But I think it's interesting that they still want to explore that, despite the fact that I think it was like 5 or 6% of PS4 owners had PSVR. They still are kind of committing to this, and they are going to offer a very, very premium headset for their console. Xbox right now is focusing on making sure that their platform has the best games. They want to get themselves in a position where, Xbox Game Pass is seen as the best value in gaming. And not only that, but people who play on Xbox play some of the best games in gaming. I think the last year was a nice little snapshot of that, of kind of things to come. But Xbox wants to maintain that, and they are not going to lose that. And that's why we're seeing them invest so heavily in these studios, making sure that these studios don't have just one single project going. A lot of these teams have multiple projects going and multiple teams, so that their flow and their cadence of these games is on point. And 2023, 2024, when they are hitting that, when they have game after game after game, maybe then I wouldn't mind seeing them offer third-party support. I don't know if they need to bother with a first-party headset in any capacity, but if they want to introduce it into the platform once they have kind of course corrected fully, I think that's a fine option. But again, I think PlayStation is in a better position to do it than Xbox right now, and I don't think that should be a focus for Xbox in the near future in any capacity. And I'm glad to hear people like Phil Spencer kind of echo that sentiment, saying like, we get that VR is small. We're going to let the other guys do it and kind of see where it is and then kind of reevaluate it in a few years. And I think that's the right move. They have other priorities that I'm happy to see them focus on. And while VR is cool and VR has great potential, I think they are really burned by the Kinect. And they are really scared. Maybe scared's harsh, but I'll say it. They are scared to go all in on like and that and lose the core audience, because the tech of the Kinect was fundamentally impressive and it allowed for some innovative stuff in gaming, but it turned off the core gaming audience in such a huge way that it damaged the perception of Xbox as a brand and as a platform. So I think Xbox, more than anyone else, is really leery to do that again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page here. Again, I've seen people say that, you know, Xbox needs VR, that they have to do it, but I think the reality is that they really don't, and they really shouldn't. They're not.
No.
They're not ready. I'm sorry, Xbox.
I'm interested in PSVR too. I really am. Far more than I was for the original PlayStation VR. Like, the specs look good. I'm curious what kind of games they can make. But objectively, high-end VR gaming is niche.
Yes.
That's just, I'm sorry, y'all. It is an objective, immovable fact.
If people are going to tell me that Elden Ring is niche, then yes, VR is.
Yeah, PSVR 2 is going to be bigger than the original PSVR. I think that's fair. It probably will. It'll get better support, but like, it's still going to be a multi-$100 headset on top of your multi-$100 console. It's never going to be mainstream. If Sony can do it in a good way, and I think they're well equipped to do so, then they can carve out a profitable side option in doing that. Maybe Xbox gets there years down the line, but right now, I don't want Xbox to be just 1 or 2 big games a year. I want them to commit to this, hey, we got a game for you every quarter, or even faster.
They have...
Now, when they get to the point that they can do that, and maybe explore VR as well, okay, we'll have a different conversation, though.
Yes, 100%, because Xbox has done a good job of delivering on their promises so far. There's been years and years of promises, and there was criticisms from some folks that this was just kind of fluff, this was just talk. But now that we're a couple years out, we're seeing Xbox deliver on these promises that they made to us in 2016, 2017. And, you know, they still do have a little bit of work to do to kind of fully correct their first party output and their overall kind of platform in terms of having those quote unquote must play exclusives. And again, I think for Xbox, VR would be way more of a distraction than it is for PlayStation. Because again, PlayStation has proven that they can at least juggle both in some capacity. What I want to know, Sam, is how much do you think the PSVR 2 is? Because if we're comparing it directly to the Quest 2, which is $300, it's got a lot more going on.
It does. The difference is it's still wired. It's just one wire. It's just one wire. Much simpler, much easier setup, but it is, at the end of the day, wired, and you have to take that into consideration. If they are willing to take a loss to make it as, you know, affordable and approachable as possible, I can see 400. I can see 400 being possible. I don't think 500 is impossible, and I hope they don't. I hope they don't. I've seen some people throwing 600 out there. They're not crazy enough to do 600.
No, they're not.
No way. Not happening. Not happening.
What I think is they were scared of the $500 price tag, and that is why they made it wired.
So 100% on the same page.
I'm leaning towards $400 to $450 for this headset. Is where I'm, based on, you know, the resolution, based on the refresh rate, based on the screens, based on the fact that this is going to have haptics built into the headset. Like, there is no, I saw people saying this will be $300. No, there is no world where this is $300. That is way too cheap. There is a world where it's $500, and I hope that they understand that audience is niche, but maybe they also understand that they want to ensure that for the people who care about it, they have a really premium headset, and they're just like, people will pay $500. We're not going to get 20 million people to buy this, but we're going to get, I don't know, 5 million people to pay $500. But I'm excited. What I'm most excited about with this are those haptics built in, because
Right,
my
right.
biggest hurdle with VR is that I get horrifically motion sick. Any
Mhm.
game that has free movement, like I played Serious Sam in VR, dude. After 30 seconds, I was gonna vomit. Like, that game is way too fast. I got that sinking feeling in my gut the entire time, and every time I play VR, it ruins my entire day. Like, I just feel like
Mhm.
this disgusting feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I know a lot of people who feel the same way. I've had friends tell me, "Oh, you just got to chew ginger while you're playing and all this stuff." I'm like, "No, I shouldn't have to do like herbal remedies while I'm playing this to not
You
get
get like
horribly
aroma,
sick."
like burning incense in the room all around you to create the atmosphere.
I'm just like, "No,
God.
I'm sorry, but no." So if those haptics really work, and the way they do work for people who are curious is it basically puts like micro vibrations on your ears while you're moving. So that way,
Mhm.
like when you're walking in a game, there's this haptic response in your head, which is supposed to trick your body into thinking that you are moving.
Right.
Um, so if that works, I will be a lot more interested in VR. Because as it's
Something that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about, Miles, but building on what you're saying is they're using foveated rendering, which is, long story short, it's a way of having a dynamic resolution where the player isn't looking, ensuring the image is as high quality as possible wherever your eyes are focused, while everything else, it doesn't
ah,
have to be as high resolution. It's a good way to save some resources, but it's also a great way to ensure you are as immersed as possible.
ah.
So that could be interesting as well.
Yeah, so I am legit curious to see what PlayStation delivers here. And, I'll get to the super chat here because I think it brings up an interesting point. It says, I think besides Oculus, the only company I think that can push VR to the mainstream would be Nintendo. Imagine the next Switch with the VR headset dock. Um, do you remember the first few forays? There are a few VR games on Switch right now, guys. Do you know that? There's a part of the Labo is a VR kit, and you can strap your Nintendo Switch to your face, and you can play Breath of the Wild in VR on your Switch. That's the thing. That's the thing. That I think that, and is it Mario Odyssey? There's one other game that you can do it.
Yeah, yeah.
So they experimented. It definitely didn't push VR into the mainstream in that capacity, but that's because nobody wants to strap a goddamn Nintendo Switch to their face. But yeah, I think PlayStation has a chance to do something cool with the PSVR 2. Will it be for everyone? No. Does it have to be for everyone? I don't think so. But with the success of Oculus, I really wonder how many people are going to pay the price of entry. Buy a console, like you said, they're going to have to buy a console and then buy a headset. We are talking about potentially $1,000 to play VR here. Whereas the Oculus, I think the reason the Oculus Quest 2 kind of blew up over the holidays was it was $300, and that's it. You
Yep.
buy that, you're good. You can play games and you are set. So, do you think PlayStation is maybe behind the curve slightly? Do you think standalone headsets are the future and PlayStation wasn't anticipating that?
I think they're doing the best they can given the situation.
Yeah.
Because if they were gonna, you can, because here's the problem, Miles. You can have high quality VR gaming, or you can have uh wireless
Yeah.
VR gaming. Pick
Yeah.
one. You're not getting both of them right now. Not for a cheap option. I mean,
No.
you could do it, but it would be several $100s, and no one would buy it. Like literally no one would buy it. So I think they're doing the best they can given the situation. I still don't think it's going to be as big as Oculus, but it should be, or Meta now. Oh God, but um,
Ugh.
but it should be bigger than the original PSVR, and that's what they're going for.
Exactly. It should be bigger, and it'll be cool to see them continue it. Because again, VR, there is an audience for it. There are people who want
Mhm.
it. I have some friends who are obnoxious when it comes to VR. I learned recently through his Facebook group, one of my buddy's Facebook groups that he's in, that there are VR fanboys. Even there are VR fanboys who call people who don't play in VR quote flat gamers, and That fact absolutely like made my day, dude. And I posted that on Twitter, and then I had a bunch of people like VR devs and other people in the VR space say, "Well, technically the origin term is pancake gamers." I'm like, "Oh my god. Oh my god. What is this world that we live in?" Like every single facet of everything has to have this extreme group that's slam dunking
Oh
on some
my
other
god.
group, and I didn't see VR being that, but here we are.
Amazing. That's unironically amazing. I love it.
It is one of the best and worst things I've ever heard in my life. The term flat gamers, while initially I don't think I've ever cringed harder in my entire life, in retrospect, it's pretty funny. It's pretty golden. And with that, I think we've ran through all of our topics here, Sam. I think that's pretty much going to be it for today's episode. If you guys are watching live and have any questions before we wrap it up, drop those in the chat now. To the 206 people still hanging with us, thanks so much for tuning into the first episode of Xbox Chaturdays for 2022. Sam, for the amazing people hanging with us, where can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert, right there. If you're listening, that's Tolbert. Very easy to find me on Twitter. And then for all my work, you can find me over on Windows Central and its sister sites, Android Central and iMore.
Future PLC gang in the house.
Mm-hmm.
In the house. Again, if you guys are interested in the audio only versions, they are now available on all podcast services, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all that great stuff. And thanks so much for listening. We will catch you all next week. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone.